Hey everybody, this is Dark Side Elite here, and I wanted to do this video mainly due to I had one gentleman was asking me a question about one of my previous videos. Let me look this up. Um, he asked me a pretty damn good video, pretty damn good question, and he was asking me a lot about he doesn't like when Barry gets credit for Wally's accomplishments, and he thinks that he's tired of how they're writing Barry like an idiot. And I was wondering, is he mean the TV show or the comic books? Because the writers and editors do that a lot of times. They put the heroes in stupid positions and they make stupid decisions, which makes absolutely no sense since they have a lot of memories and understanding about their abilities and powers, and they're not written to be dumb people. Um, but he was talking about the comics and that basically the Speed Force was introduced in Wally's run, which is actually true. But he didn't like it how Jeff Johns wrote it that Barry's the one that created the Speed Force, and that's the reason why when in Crisis on Infinite Earths when he died, he actually went back as the lightning that struck Barry, that struck himself as a young man, so he gave himself his powers as a perpetual loop. Everyone thought that was one of the greatest ways to end Barry's run, and that he was the bolt that actually chose him to get his powers. Um, I will never change that. However, I told him that I've been thinking about ever since they brought Wally back into the whole situation, what they've been doing with Wally's character. I hated the fact that they made him because he lost his wife, he lost both his kids, and he remembers it because of convergence, and he doesn't know where the heck they're at. He tried to search for them throughout the planet. He knows that his wife is alive. She's there, but she has no memories of him. And he had to let her go. Now, a lot of people were like, man, that really sucks and this and that. And Barry doesn't know how that truly feels because how would that feel about him and Iris? He just now is a brand new universe that was created for him because of what happened in Flashpoint. And he created this whole new universe. He supposedly thought that he created. I'm not saying that he did. I'm just saying that he supposedly thought he created this whole new timeline when he hasn't realized that all this has been a result because of Dr. Manhattan. But I also want to talk a little bit about what I would do. Now, they should have knew right off the bat what they wanted to do with this character. I never would introduce the whole difference of the difference of the forces within the multiverse. I never would have created that. The whole let me look that up because I want to give you all the information here. Let me see. Because there's all right. Now we know about the different types of energy forces. So like we know about the Speed Force, we know about the Sage Force, the Strength Force, the Negative Speed Force, and the Still Force. I never would have introduced it. I never would have introduced it. Never. That was stupid. I would have made it where they're all aspects of the Speed Force. They're all part of the Speed Force. The Speed Force is the Speed Force. And the and the turtle gains energy from what is a concept of the Speed Force, which actually makes it so we could slow down people, slow down time. The Strength Force makes it so you can be able to do massive levels of physics. You're able to break the levels of physics using the Speed Force, which makes think about it. Barry's able to run at high levels of speed and punch people really really hard. He could do the one megaton punch, which is it's stronger than Superman's titanium punch. The Sage Force, which makes it able for Barry to or any other species to be able to think at high levels of speed. All these and the way I would have constructed it is that it's all part of the Speed Force. It's all part of the Speed Force. It's just different aspects of the Speed Force that certain people can be able to draw upon. I never would have made it like it's different concepts of the Speed Force. And and they did this to make it where they're trying to build a much bigger cosmetology of DC. That's what I'm getting from this, but it's stupid. It's stupid talking points, and on top of that, it can become a straw man argument, and I don't want it to be a straw man argument. It's too debatable, and also you should have made it where the Speed Force is the Speed Force. You should have named it something else and said, no, what he calls the Speed Force, this is what it's called. This is what it's called. And all of you guys in like the Turtle, speedsters, they're able to draw upon those aspects of this level of force. It is a force that is the way lines to all the aspects within the multiverse itself. That's what they should have called it. End of story. It would have made it, and make it where it made a lot more sense. Making it where the still force, the sage force, the strength force, the negative speed force, and the Speed Force, they're all aspects that were actually created before the Source Wall was created, and these other aspects were put behind the Source Wall. What the heck did you do that for? That, to me, that I felt that was stupid. That's me. I'm sorry. What I would have done was, I would have had it where the moment you introduced Wally, throughout all of Wally's run, like, you know, where he's confused and is that he's noticing there's something wrong with the Speed Force. Barry doesn't know. Barry doesn't have that strong connection to the speed. He doesn't have the intimate knowledge of the Speed Force like Wally does, because Wally ran to the Speed Force many, many times. And this is one of the things that basically Wally tells Barry, because it's one of the things that Barry thought that this is what happens, but Wally gives him an educational lesson. And here's an educational lesson I want to give to you guys. One, there is no run into the Speed Force. We should get rid of that type of a phrase. You can't run into the Speed Force. I would like to try to add in, they run through the Speed Force. Because the concept of them running into the Speed Force means, and I think I talked about this in the remake of the Flash, the concepts of how I'll do the movie, a little bit in that. Running into the Speed Force means you're running into the speedster version of heaven. That is the whole concept of running into the Speed Force. You cannot run into the Speed Force. You will never come back. And there's only been 2 people that have ever done it. Actually, 3. I'm sorry, 3. One is Max Mercury. He's done it numerous times. That's why he's rarely ever aged. The other one is Wally. He ran into the Speed Force and ran out, and ran into the Speed Force and ran out, and ran back into the Speed Force again and ran out. He's done it 3 times. Barry's only done it once. And that's when he died. And that's what you found out about him. He was consistently outrunning the Black Racer, and that was the whole point of Final Crisis. That Barry Allen was outrunning death, so he wouldn't die and go into the Speed Force permanently. And that's why Wally was like, hey, wait a minute. So this is what, and that's why he realized, wait a minute, this is what happened to Barry this whole time. He didn't know this until after Bart's death, because when Bart died after the whole revenge of the Rogues, and I forgot the last arc of Bart's run, when he died, that when Wally came back out of the Speed Force without his family, because he left them into the Speed Force, because he was wondering what the heck is going on, because there was a disruption, and he came out of the Speed Force. And what happened is that if I remember correctly, I could be wrong. Here's the thing, I could be wrong. I got to go back and read the whole Final Crisis. But when Wally ran out of the Speed Force, he found out that the Rogues killed Bart, and he got livid. He told Leonard Snart, you don't realize how easily Barry and I could have killed you left and right. You think you're the smartest guy in the room, but you don't realize how powerful me and Barry really were. We could have killed you. We could have killed all of you. And we didn't do it because we knew that you guys were good people. Yeah, you're thieves, but you're not murderers. There was always a level of respect between the Flash and the Rogues, and you broke that. And he threw him in jail. He threw all of them in jail. He said, if you guys ever get out of here, I will kill you. I will kill you for killing Barry's grandson, who was only doing what any other Flash would do. And he flat out told him he would kill him. The Trickster and Pied Piper were on the run throughout this whole situation. They thought that Wally was going to kill him because Pied Piper was scared to death. And this was supposed to be the death of Jesse James as the original Pied Piper. He died. He died from wounds. He died. And he and Jesse James were handcuffed, and Rathaway had to carry Jesse James' dead carcass until he was finally able to get him off of him, and he buried him, and that's what changed him over from becoming a good guy. That was the whole story of Final Crisis and the Flash version of it, the Flash portion of it, because because the rogues were all getting taken down because they all got out of prison. And they were about to make and they all got out of jail, and they said, no, we're not going to do anything. And they were all getting taken down, and they were wondering who the hell did it. And they were finding out that it was Pied Piper. And they're like, what the heck are you doing? He goes, I'm bringing you all to justice for killing the Flash. He said he was a good guy from this point forward. He made an amends with Wally. He said, no, I'm not here to cause any crimes. I'm here to bring them to justice. And Wally went, interesting. And he left him alone. And then that's when you found out that Pied Piper was the missing element to the whole Anti-Life equation, because his power is able to take away people's wills. That's what his hypnotism does. It takes away people's will, and he does it with a song. And that's when you come to find out that Darkseid kidnapped the Mad Hatter, Mesmero. He kidnapped all these people that can break people's wills and use them to create the formula for him to create the Anti-Life equation itself. If I remember it correctly, I could be wrong, but that's what he did. He kidnapped all these people that can have the power to take away people's will, and he realized that it was an equation. It was never a power. It was an equation. It was a mathematical equation, and the only way to bring that, and he realized that the only person who had the true power to bring forth that last level of the equation was Pied Piper, and he was hunting him down. Now, that's a history lesson. Sorry, but I would have made it where Wally found out there's something going on, and throughout his whole run, he's noticing there's something going on with the Speed Force, but he's not noticing it. So he goes through his own little things, but then when that whole nonsense with the future version of Captain Cold comes in, and they try to find out what the heck is going on. And Hunter Zolomon created the Flash War. That's when Wally notices there is something completely wrong with the Speed Force. There's something massively wrong with the Speed Force this whole time, because he mentions the whole situation about what happened with the Force Storm, the Lightning Storm. And he says that, wait a minute, that gave birth to Godspeed? Well, then why the heck was he faster than you? And he goes, well, I was able to siphon off his energy. And Wally tells Barry, wait a minute, who taught you that? He goes, well, I've always known how to do that. He goes, no, you didn't. You never did it. He goes, yeah, I never did it when you were with me. He goes, I never was able to do it. He goes, again, how were you able to do it? I know how to do it because I was taught by Max Mercury, and I did it against Savitar. That was the only way he was able to defeat Savitar, was he was able to siphon off Savitar's speed so he could defeat Savitar. And that is your first introduction to the whole situation with Savitar and what happened in the previous universe. And Barry was like, wow. And you slowly get more clues through Barry's story, not Wally's story, but Barry's story, that something is going on with the Speed Force. Eobard Thawne comes back, and he says that he's only here to help. And Barry doesn't believe him worth 2 cents. He doesn't believe Eobard Thawne as much as 2 cents can afford a cup of coffee. That is how much he does not have trust in Eobard Thawne. But throughout the whole thing, Eobard Thawne has not done anything. He's still being kind of mischievous and egotistical. Yeah, he's still being Eobard Thawne, but he's being completely open with Barry. He's telling him there is something going on with the Speed Force. There's something going on with our power. He goes, what do you mean? He goes, well, have you noticed it? We're getting slower. He goes, I know Wally has. He goes, I know Wally has. He says that boy has a strong connection to. He has a connection to the Speed Force that we don't know about because he's been going in and out of there for a very long time. Eobard Thawne reveals that. That's your notion that he is the classic Eobard Thawne before all the Flashpoint. He's the classic Eobard Thawne. He fought Wally numerous times. He knows, like, dude, this kid is way more powerful than this. That's why he never confronted him, because Wally will run rings around him. Wally is the fastest of all the Flashes, and Eobard's like, I can't outrace him. He'll run after me and destroy me. I'm sorry. I'm faster than you, Barry, but I'm not faster than Wally. But he also reveals that Barry has a unique connection to the Speed Force. He doesn't understand why, but he has a very unique connection to the Speed Force. And that's what Eobard Thawne is there to find out. Why does Barry have such a unique connection to the Speed Force? His speed has never decreased. His speed is still the same. It's consistently the same. Eobard's is getting slower. Very, very slow. It's slowly being dripped away. That's why Eobard's noticing that he's getting slower. How the heck is this going on? Them going through, and he's also saying, well, why don't you run into the Speed Force? He goes, are you nuts? And he reveals, you don't run into the Speed Force. Who the hell told you that? You run through the Speed Force. He goes, and he says, I thought you knew about all this. He goes, well, that's what I thought. He goes, no. And and Eobard gives him a massive history lesson about going through and into and he gives him a massive history lesson that it's way lines throughout all the multiverse. The only thing you cannot do is go past the dimensional barrier. You cannot go past the dimensional barrier into realms. You can't go through the reality barrier. So, and that's why I was saying in the movie is that means that the Flash cannot just run and go to Apocalypse. He can't just run and go to the realm of the gods. He can't just run and go to Trigon's world. You have to have ability to bypass the reality barrier. Hence why magicians can go anywhere they want. But they can't go into the Speed Force because they don't have a connection to the Speed Force. It's a balance. It's a massive level of balance. Magicians can go almost anywhere within the realms. They go to any reality. They just can't go into the Speed Force. The only reason why Superman can do it is because Superman can fly or run almost as fast, but they don't have a connection. He can break through the barrier that is needed to go into the Speed Force. That goes through the Speed Force. I'm sorry. He just can't be in there for very long, or his body will turn into complete energy, and he'll turn into pure energy. That's why Superman doesn't do it all the time, unless he's running with the Flash. Then they both can go through the Speed Force. That's the only reason why Superman can go there, because Barry or Wally or Bart can create the energy and siphon and Superman can siphon off the energy for him to look like a speedster, even though he's flying. It doesn't matter. He's generating energy that's like the Speed Force, so that it won't siphon off his natural energy and turn him into energy. He won't go into nothing, because Superman cannot do it. His body will start chipping away, and he'll turn himself into energy, because he's not supposed to be in there. That's the whole point of it. It's a balance. It's all levels of balance. And Eobard Thawne tells him that. He goes, why do you think Superman can't go in there? Why do you think Superman can't go this place or this place or this place? Because he doesn't have the power to do it. He's not supposed to. That's why it's mind-boggling he can able to fly to Apocalypse. He's not supposed to be able to do that. And Barry's like, whoa. And Iris is in there just going, what the heck? Why do you think they need a boom tube? If they can go anywhere they want, they need a boom tube. Boom tubes can go anywhere except to the Speed Force. They can't go into the Speed Force. It's a metaphysical dimension where energy is supposed to go there. We turn into pure energy when we go into the Speed Force. He mentions that. He goes, dude, you didn't notice that? He's telling him a whole story of it. So Wally runs through the Speed Force. It goes along the way lines, and he notices that the energy itself is shifting in different ways. It's talking, and he's going, what the heck? And then he goes further through the way lines, and he's noticing that something is siphoning off its energy. Something is siphoning off the power of the Speed Force. And he's wondering what the heck it is. He's noticing that the energy is similar to his. He goes, wait a minute, that's impossible. So he goes further in, and then he gets knocked out of it. And that's what gives him his notion of what the heck it is. He goes to Barry, and he sees Eobard, and Eobard's like, and they almost have it out, but Barry stops and goes, no, 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 what's going on? And he reveals it's Savitar. So now you have Savitar is back. And Thawne is like, but that's impossible. You got rid of him. He goes, yeah, I got rid of him. He's depowered. He goes, but then you get more research and you find out that he is the true god of speed. He is the original speedster, the first speedster. He is a god. He created the Speed Force. He is the one that created the Speed Force. Every speedster draws their energy from him. His whole resurrection back in when they first introduced him was he was trying to siphon off all the energy of all the speedsters to gain back his power. Then when the Flash Rebirth happened and Barry fought him, he was at his weakest. That's the reason why Barry was able to defeat him. He was livid that Barry was able to catch him up in speed. He's like, that's impossible. How the hell you go from Wally being faster than Barry, and now Barry's able to beat him in speed? How the heck is that? That's stupid. And you come to find out that Savitar was originally one of the entities stuck inside the source wall. But when the source wall broke, he was able to get himself back into the Speed Force, and literally start siphoning off all the energy. In a story, that's what they could have done. Built up that basically he's been doing this ever since the whole thing with Dr. Manhattan was happening, when this universe was created. And when the source wall broke, that was him finally getting out. And he went right into the Speed Force to start siphoning off that energy. This is what Hunter Zolomon was talking about. Like, something is going to happen with the Speed Force. Entities like the Turtle was losing their powers. All these people were losing their powers. Godspeed was his avatar to go around. That was Godspeed's job. Savitar gave this guy, the lightning storm happened, it opened a portal, and if they didn't close that portal to the Speed Force, they would have saw Savitar in there, siphoning off all the energy. That's why he went, oh crap. So he started giving all of his power to all these other people, creating all these speedsters, so they would keep themselves busy, so he could keep siphoning off the energy. Who cares? Give them the energy, and slowly over time, he'll zap the energy back out of them. Who the heck cares? But he saw August and said, "You're my avatar." Boom! Gave him literally a portion of his speed. That's why his lightning was different. His lightning was white because he gave him a crap ton of his power. You could have built this whole thing up saying that this has all been Savitar this whole time. And Eobard Thawne has been educating Barry, so Barry understands his position and Eobard's position for this whole situation, this whole balanceer thing that's going on with the Speed Force. And then the only person that could take him on is Wally. Wally's the only one. Barry can't beat Savitar. Wally even tells him, "You're no match for him." Barry's like, well, he goes, you don't dude, I fought this man twice. I fought this man before. He's dangerous. He's very powerful. He goes, I defeated him once at his weakest. I fought him almost at the pure of his true power. I almost was able to defeat him, but I understand what he can do with his speed. I know what I can do with my speed. You will get wrecked. Simple as that. He will get wrecked by Savitar. So Wally puts it upon himself to take on Savitar, but he's losing his speed. Slowly, very slowly, he's losing his speed. And Thawne is telling this both to them that you guys are losing your speed. Both of you. You're losing yours at a much quicker pace than Barry is. He reveals it. He goes, you guys haven't noticed it. And Wally says, yeah, I've noticed it. When? When he first got back. He noticed his speed is slow. He's noticed he's getting slower. That's why he hasn't been running at his top max speeds. He hasn't. They're like, what? That shows you how fast Wally is. He has never been running at his top speed. He's been harnessing his energy into himself so he would be perpetual. So he can actually be able to conserve his speed force powers. Now, does this kind of make sense what they're doing in the TV show? But this is on a grander level, a much bigger level, because Savitar's siphoning off all their speed. So he can get to back to where he's supposed to be. He is the true god of speed. He's an entity. He's not a real person. He's not a physical person. He's an entity. And he's stupid fast. No, literally, he is dumb fast. Wally even says, no, this guy can literally, he can bend light like it's a joke. It takes me just a little bit just to get to his levels of speed where I'm thinking that he would be at. Barry's like, what? This guy can go into that top speed like that. That is how fast Savitar really is. Savitar is no joke. He is the true god of speed. And Wally has to take him down. But he has to go through the speed force to figure out how can they do it. But the key to the whole situation is Barry. Barry has a pure connection to the speed force. There's a reasoning why. And here's the reasoning why. When all the entities got stuck into the source wall, the presence and all the entities that took down these primordial powers, they basically sealed them away into the source wall. What happened with Savitar was they took a portion of his speed and basically it coincided with all the energy he created when he created the way lines. He created the whole Speed Force way lines. That was what he was doing. That's why he was traveling to anywhere he wants. He could travel anywhere. But what happened was it was latent energy that was sitting around when they sealed him away. He created this energy, and it actually has a positive and a negative. And the Speed Force is a symbiotic energy. It is actually a living energy because it was created by freaking Savitar. And it chose champions just in case if Savitar ever got out. But it didn't know how to do it. And you can go into a little bit more explanation. I don't want to get into a far explanation. But it created an imbalance. So basically, it would actually choose Wally or Barry or Eobard. Eobard is a champion for the Speed Force. But he drew upon the negative aspects of the Speed Force and became its champion. That's why he's the only one. The only one. You can also say that Daniel West did, but he got totally corrupted by it because he didn't listen to the Speed Force. He tried to bend it to his will. Sorry, I was looking at my cat. So there's a lot of things you can do with these characters, and then eventually the whole revelation comes out. The whole revelation comes out about Savitar and everything else, about the Speed Force and everything else. It's called something else. I don't want to go into it. I think somebody else should think about that. Like, what should be the name of what they call the energy force that all these people can draw their kinetic powers from? But it is the child to Savitar. It is Savitar's true powers. That's why Savitar can able to zap all their energies right out of him. Barry should never be able to do that. He doesn't have that true connection to the Speed Force. Wally does because he learned everything he can from the Speed Force. And the only reason why Wally was chosen because guess what? When Barry first became the Flash, he ran through the Speed Force, and the Speed Force saw how good of a soul he had, and he made him his champion. Gave him the pure connection to the Speed Force. Wally recreated created the whole thing. That's why there's always been a weird connection between Wally, Barry, and Eobard. Eobard did the same thing too. These people created the same accident that Barry used to become the Flash. And that's why they have a pure connection to the Speed Force. But Eobard went down the path of the negative Speed Force. He's the only one that's able to do it. He created a pure connection. He can utilize the negative Speed Force however he wished. Daniel used the power of the Speed Force and corrupted the Speed Force and became the Reverse Flash. But his energy was so chiseled by his anger and rage, and because of what Eobard did, boom, he died from it. Because Eobard's like, nope, no one's gonna get that power like he has. No one. He's not gonna allow it to happen. Barry was the key. So Wally allowed all of his speed to be sucked into Savitar. And also, you kind of find out that August died. August is dead. I know people feel like, oh, Godspeed. No. Godspeed's dead. Godspeed is dead. And here's the reasoning why. It's time to start eliminating all these speedsters and get down to the nitty gritty of speedsters. It should be Barry Allen, Eobard Thawne. And I know how you feel about Eobard Thawne, and I'll explain Eobard Thawne in another video. How I think that they should never have killed Eobard Thawne. But there's also a way to bring him back. There's also a huge way of bringing him back. A huge way of bringing him back. However, Wally gives up his speed. His energy goes all the way down, but he has that pure connection to the Speed Force that Savitar cannot absorb. He cannot absorb their pure connection to the Speed Force. So what happens is Wally absorbs all of his and turns him back into his weaker entity form and uses that power to send him back into the source wall. And have him in a perpetual loop. He's in a perpetual loop. He will always be stuck in the source wall. There's a way to bring him back. There is a way to bring him back. There's always a way to bring somebody back. But for this point in time, he's stuck in a perpetual loop where he cannot get out of the Speed Force. He cannot get out of the source wall. He cannot get out. It's a hell dimension for him. He cannot get out. And Wally takes this energy and becomes the true Godspeed. He is the new Savitar. Takes Barry and Eobard and get him out of the Speed Force, and he tells them that he's now going to fix what was broken. And he runs back into the Speed Force and starts giving lightning to all the speedsters that didn't have their powers. All of them. The only one he doesn't give to is Max Mercury, and it gives you a frame where you're hearing him talking to Wally long time ago, before all of this, and Wally remembers that Max regrets ever taking that power. He regrets it because he now has to watch all of his friends and people that he knows are all going to die. He's going to be always immortal because he's always going to have to run back into the Speed Force to get more educational learning. He wants to learn every aspect of the Speed Force so he could teach it to everybody else. But when he does that, he comes back out, everything's completely changed. It's like he's been gone for centuries. And he's sick and tired of it. He's losing friends. So he's like, I'm done. He says he kind of wishes that he never got that power. So he never allowed Max Mercury to able to break into the Speed Force. He said, nope, it's closed off to him. Then you have Wally go back to Barry at the very end of the whole thing, and he tells Barry that he knows where his family is. He knows exactly where his family is. They're like, he goes, and I'm going to save him. And, Barry goes, no, he goes, no, I miss Linda. I miss my son and daughter. I miss them. There's nothing here for me anymore. And Iris is sitting there going, what the heck are you talking about? Oh, he goes, you're not my aunt. You're my aunt, but you're not my aunt. You have a Wally here. My time here shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here. Now, the way I'm speaking about this, you're all thinking, oh my God, is he going to write off Wally? No! There's a huge thing about this. Wally says it's time for him to be happy. It's time. He has done more than enough, and he thinks that he deserves to at least have his family back. The rough times, that's fine, but he deserves to have his family back. He worked hard to have his family. And for them to be taken away is not fair. So he's going to go back, he's going to go into the Speed Force, and he knows where they're at. Because guess what? They're right where he left them the last time. Remember, he ran out of the Speed Force without his family during Final Crisis. So where would they be? In the Speed Force. So by him disrupting all that stuff, Convergence never happened. His story in Convergence never happened. He has to put it back. He has to. So what he did is he did something different. He redid Convergence. Convergence happened, but it didn't happen the way you think it happened. Wally did not have his family during that time. That's why he's wondering what happened to his family. But now he knows. He's put his family into the Speed Force for safekeeping. And that's what he did. He goes in, grabs his family, gets out, and he says that it's time for them to be happy. He runs into a different world, to a different universe, and he puts them there and he says that stay here. He knows what he has to do. And he runs back into the Speed Force and gives up all that power back into the Speed Force and creates a perpetual energy in the Speed Force. So basically, he loses all of his godhood powers. He keeps the speed. He puts his speed back to where it was in the 90s. He's back to 90s Flash level speed. He's not the way he is anymore. He runs out of the Speed Force and he basically, boom, comes back and he says that, and he's wearing his classic suit. And everybody's like, whoa. And he goes, he fixed it. So now the Speed Force itself has perpetual energy. And it's now a living organ. It's now a living entity now. It's a true living entity to do whatever it wishes. And now Barry feels a much stronger connection. Eobard feels a stronger connection. Every speedster, even Wally, feels a stronger connection to the Speed Force. That's what he does. Wally kind of fixes it. But he says that now they're on a world that doesn't have a speedster. And now he is the speedster. He is the new speedster for this universe. He doesn't need to go to where Barry is. And you now have a brand new set of comics you can write for Wally West, who has all of his memories, has Linda, has Jireh, has Ireh, Jay and Ireh. He has his kids, and he has his speed where he was at when he broke his limit and became faster than Barry Allen. But he doesn't have all that raw power he used to have. He doesn't have all that because he gave it all up to make the Speed Force where it's supposed to be. That's how I would do it. And Savitar is in a perpetual loop. But he can come back. He can come back. That's what I would have done. And this has been brooding ever since Wally came back from the Speed Force. And that's how I would have done it. It'd have been a great story, great amount of a lot of history. You would have an understanding of the Speed Force itself, the Still Force, the Strength Force, the Sage Force, the Negative Speed Force. Eobard would have educated you, us as the readers, and Barry Allen about the fact that you obviously still don't know anything about your powers. There's a reason why I'm always a step ahead of you, because I know you choose not to. You choose not to understand. And now Eobard is now able to run off however he wishes, because he and Barry made a deal, and he kept his end of the deal. So that's how I would do it. And I'll get to you about how I would have killed Eobard. And if you guys want to know how anything further than that, let me know down below. So I say to you, like, comment, share, subscribe down below, hit that bell, and I will do as many videos as I possibly can. This was a question that one guy was asking me on the video, and I said, hey, you know what? Let me do a video about it and give you an explanation. And I feel that they should have never, ever, ever, ever did the Heroes in Crisis storyline should have still happened. But it wasn't. But the way it didn't happen the way it happened the same way, and it was more about Wally. And then you get that whole Godspeed storyline again, and that August was coming back, but it's all about Savitar. This whole thing was about Savitar, all of it. Savitar returns, and you gotta find out that he was an entity inside the Source Wall this whole time. All they were doing was fighting against his avatars. Godspeed was his latest avatar. That's why he still had a connection to his speed. It's all been a gigantic loop circle. So that's how I would do it. So thank you for joining me. You guys have a great one, okay? Bye.